Today's Willie Nelson's letter to America is marriage is a four-letter word. Willie writes, in an ideal world, a marriage starts with both passion and affection. Lots of marriages survive and can even thrive after one of those is gone. But if you lose them both, you may as well turn out the lights because the party's over. When I turned 50, I took stock of my life and thought maybe marriage and me weren't meant to be. I'd been married 3 times without getting it right. I loved being a dad and being a granddad too. Maybe that was enough. End of story. But life has a funny way of getting your attention. In January of 1986, Waylon, Cash, Chris, and me were shooting a remake of the classic Western movie Stagecoach. They all had family members with them, but I was solo and found myself hanging out with the makeup artist, Annie D'Angelo. Not only was she good looking and a fair amount of sassy, she was funny too. We hit it off pretty quickly, but it took me some time to convince her I was good marrying material. We did eventually have a nice wedding, but the courtship was long enough that both our young boys were part of the ceremony. Chris Christopherson is a great friend of both of us. We marry what we need, Chris says. I married a lawyer, and Willie married a makeup artist. That's a good line, but in addition to being a great mom, Annie takes on a lot of responsibilities in my world, and there ain't much call for me to wear makeup. I spent years perfecting this face. Why cover it up? On the other hand, I do love for her to brush out my long hair. Either way, 35 years after we teamed up, I still look better with Annie at my side. I'm not saying we're perfect, I'm just saying we're close enough. Despite it taking me a few tries to get the relationship thing right, I'd be the last guy in the world to ask about women. But here are a few things I think work for us. We share our love for each other and our love for our kids. We share a commitment to peace and to do our part of the work, to teach it and to work for it. We share a commitment to the environment of the earth. You know the old joke, a married guy's pals ask him if he can play poker all night. I absolutely can, the guy says, but let me ask my wife if I want to. That joke's probably not a fair comparison, because Annie knows I'm going to play poker. We see things differently sometimes, but we also listen to one another. We compromise when we need to, but it's more fun when we don't have to. And we've been married so long now that we usually don't have to ask. All it takes is a glance. We also share a lot of laughs. The past few weeks we've been taking care of a puppy for Lucas, a really sweet dog that Annie was getting attached to. The night the puppy left with Lucas, Annie seemed sad. So I turned to her at bedtime and said, if you're missing the puppy around 4 in the morning, you're welcome to carry me outside to pee. I like it when she calls me babe. And unlike when I was younger, we know how to talk it out when things aren't perfect. One time we were going back and forth on some problem. I don't even remember what. It was serious though, because at one point Annie said, there are worse things than being alone. My eyes lit up. And I said, thank you. I think I'll write that song. One of the favorite instrumentals I've written is called Annie. Since it has no lyrics for me to add here, I guess I'll go with the song she inspired. I know she won't take that personally because there are a lot of things worse than being with Annie. There's a great thing here that he wrote called There Are Worse Things Than Being Alone by Willie Nelson. And I'll read that in a separate reading as well. There Are Worse Things Than Being Alone by Willie Nelson. We finally said all our final goodbyes, and tear after tear fell from everyone's eyes. But just like a funeral where nobody dies, there's worse things than being alone. There are worse things than being alone, like a full house and nobody home. If the feeling keeps changing, then something's gone wrong. And there's worse things than being alone. Well past my halfway in time, but I still have a lot on my mind. And there's one thing for certain beyond right or wrong. There's worse things than being alone. There are worse things than being alone, like a full house and nobody home. If the feeling keeps changing, then something's gone wrong. And there's worse things than being alone. If a feeling keeps changing, then something's gone wrong. And there's worse things than being alone. Wise words from Willie.